message. And okay, where are we? Here we go. There's the message, and make sure we are live, and then we'll be ready to go. We are alive and live. That's pretty cool. Okay. Give me 1 second. I just erase that. And we'll get my guitar out, and we can do some chanting. If that's all right. Okay. All righty. So obviously we're going to chant the prayers to the Lord Nrsingadev because, why is we chanting? Because the world is in a precarious situation. Of course, the world is always in a precarious situation, but certain things are happening right now with mass casualties, potential for a larger war, devotees suffering, having to leave their countries, leave their temples, leave their deity worship, and being put in unbelievable pressure, or under unbelievable pressure. So we're just chanting for the welfare of everyone, and particularly the devotees in Ukraine and also Russia, and actually devotees everywhere and people everywhere, because everyone is ultimately a devotee. They've just forgotten that they're devotees. No one is a demon ontologically. They may be acting demoniacally. That's true. Anyone could act demoniacally, but no one is a demon, because the position of the soul is Jivera Swarupohi Nitya Krishna Das. So it doesn't say Jivera Swarupohi Nitya Asura or Asura Das, the servant of Asura. No one is by nature a demon. Everyone is by nature a devotee. That's the inherent nature. It just has to be woken up. That's why Lord Caitanya says, Jiv Jago Gora Chanda Ole Kota Nidra Yol Maya Pisachira Kole. Wake up, sleeping soul, wake up, sleeping soul. How long have you been sleeping in the lap of the witch called Maya? So let us chant for everybody. So we're going to chant the prayers to the Lord Nrsingadev right now, and pray for all the people, devotees, of course there's no such thing as a non-devotee. What can I say? No such thing as a non-devotee. Everyone is a devotee. Remember that. Namaste Narasingaya La Toyane Iranyakachi Urvachaka Shilatam Kana Kolaye Itona Singa Padatona Singa Yatoya Mitatona Singa Pakina Singo Ridayana Singo The Singamadev Shanam Rapajoy The Singamadev Shanam Rapajoy Namaste Narasingaya Valada Lada Dayane Hiranyakasi Urvatsala Jilatam Ganakalaye Itona Singa Adona Singo Yato Yami Tona Singa Makina singo ritayena singo Stringamatim Jananam Rapa joy The Stringamatim Jananam Rapa joy Namakana come and love a rain and come and put this string Dani da Iranya kasi Budanu Ring Isabatrita Rupa Jaya Gudi Sunday Jaya Gudi Sunday Jaya Gudi Sunday Navagana come and love and pray and come and just swing Dani da Rani kasi Budanu Isabatrita Narani Rupa Jaya Gudi Sunday Jaya Gudi Sunday Jaya Gudi Sunday Napakura come and love and pray and come and put the swing Dani da Sabatrita, Narani Rupa, Jaya Gudi Sunday, Jaya Gudi Sunday, Jaya Gudi Sunday, Jaya the string a day, the string a day, the string a day, and the string a day, the string a day, Swing a Dave, the swing a Dave, now the swing a Dave. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Urivo, Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravalakacharya Alstrateta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Savaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidway Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasidevi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarane. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shikadavena Maha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with a torch light of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're going to continue with our reading of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Let me just check my calendar right now to make sure I'm not intruding on some very special day. Nope. There's no special holiday today. Okay. So we're going to continue with our reading of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. We're reading from Antya Lila, that's the final portion of the Caitanya Caritamrta, chapter 1, and we're continuing from text 93 in chapter 1. So we're really making our way quickly because Antya Lila is mostly texts and a little less purports, except in certain portions. It's mostly text dealing with the Lord's final pastimes and the Lord's interactions with devotees, Das Thakur and Rupa Goswami, which we're reading about right now, and Sanatana Goswami. When Sanatana Goswami visits Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent the final portion of his manifest pastimes in Jagannath Puri, and that's what the Antya Lila is about. No more traveling, just Jagannath Puri until he leaves this mortal world. Okay, so let's start. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, text 93. Chaturmasya Rahi Gode Vaishnava Chalila Rupa Goswami Mahaprabhura Charane Rahila. After the 4 months of Chaturmasya, Shravana, Bhadra, Ashvina, and Kartika, all the Vaishnavas Bengal returned to their homes, but Srila Rupa Goswami remained in Jagannath Puri under the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So usually during the 4 months of the Chaturmasya, which includes the Rath Yatra festival and the return, Rath, and all the other festivals in between, the devotees from Bengal would stay with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and after those 4 months they would go back to their normal homes in Navadvip, but Rupa Goswami remained. Ekadina Rupa Karena Nataka Likhana Chambite Mahaprabhura Haila Agamana. One day while Rupa Goswami was writing his book, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu suddenly appeared. Wow. Sambrame Dunhe Ute Dandavat Hoela Dunhe Alingya Prabhu Ashasane Asadne. So Asane Vasila. As soon as Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami saw the Lord coming, they both stood up and then fell down to offer him their respectful obeisances. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced them both and then sat down. So remember, Rupa Goswami is working on the 2 works here, the Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava. Vidagdha Madhava refers to Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, Radharani of course too, and the Lalita Madhava refers to Krishna's pastimes out of Vrindavan. And they're both plays. Remember, very, very important plays. Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava. And Rupa Goswami was instructed to write them as separate plays by Satyabhama when he went through Satyabhama Pura, and also by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That was previous in this chapter. Kya punti lika bale eka patra nila akshara dekhiya prabhu mane sukhi oila. The Lord inquired, "What kind of book are you writing?" He held up a palm leaf that was a page of the manuscript, and when he saw the fine handwriting, his mind was very pleased. Of course, they didn't have paper at that particular point. They were writing on palm leaves. And some of those palm leaves are still available today in the different museums, like in the museum in Vrindavan, and you can actually see these palm leaves with the handwriting of Rupa Goswami, which is like pearls on a thread. Shirupera Dakshara Yena Mukutara Pante Pritihana Karena Prabhu Aksharera Shtuti. Thus being pleased, the Lord praised the writing by saying, the handwriting of Rupa Goswami is just like rows of pearls. So, of course, he was writing in Devanagari. And one time Prabhupada asked one of the devotees to write something in Devanagari, and Prabhupada said, this is practically, I am paraphrasing, illegible, but he says, that's right, nobody writes nicely in Devanagari, except for Rupa Goswami and these great devotees. Se patre Prabhu eka shloka ye, adekhila paditye shloka prema vishtara ila. While reading the manuscript, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu saw a verse on that page, and as soon as he read it, he was overwhelmed by ecstatic love. Tunde tandavini ratim vitannute tundhavali labdhuye karna kroda kadambini gatayate karnarbude vyaspriham chetaprang Gana Sangani Vichayate Sarvendriyanam Kritim No Jane Janita Kyabir Amrita Krishneti Varna Dvai. Actually, it sounds beautiful, even though I do not understand Sanskrit. It is beautiful. Just the writing of Rupa Goswami is amazing. I do not know how much nectar the two syllables Krishna have produced. When the holy name of Krishna is chanted, it appears to dance within the mouth. We then desire many, many mouths. When that name enters the holes of the ears, we desire many millions of ears. And when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind, and therefore all the senses become inert. Wow. So this is a verse, of course, from the Vidalika Madhava, about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, 1:15, a 7-act play, written by Srila Rupa Goswami, describing the pastimes of Sri Krishna in Vrindavan. Shloka shuni aridhasa haila hulasi nachate lagila shlokera artha prishamsi. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu chanted this verse, Haridas Thakur, upon hearing the vibration, became jubilant and began to dance while praising its meaning. Krishna namera mahima shastra sadhumukhe jane namera madhuri chaiche kahanahi shuni. One has to learn about the beauty and transcendental position of the holy name of the Lord by hearing the revealed scriptures from the mouths of devotees. Nowhere else can we hear the sweetness of the Lord's holy names. It is said in the Padma Purana, Atakshi Krishna Namadi Davavek Prayamendriyai. It's a verse that I quote often. It's also from the Caitanya Charitamrta Lila 17:136. Chanting and hearing of the transcendental holy name of the Lord cannot be performed by the ordinary senses. The transcendental vibration of the Lord's holy name is completely spiritual. Thus it must be received from spiritual sources, and it must be chanted after having been heard from a spiritual master. One who hears the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra must receive it from the spiritual master by oral reception. Srila Sanatana Goswami has forbidden us to hear the holy name of Krishna chanted by non-Vaishnavas, such as professional actors and singers, for it will have no effect. It is like milk touched by the lips of a serpent, as stated in the Padma Purana. It's a very important verse. Vaishnavam kodgirnam bhuttam harikatam ritam shavanam naivakartavyam sarpochistiyatapayam. As far as possible, therefore, the devotees of the Krishna conscious movement gather to chant the holy name of Krishna in public so that both the chanters and the listeners may benefit. So really what this verse says, that Prabhupada just quoted from the Padma Purana, Vaishnava Mokol Girna, when the holy name, Caitanya, comes from someone who is against Krishna, like a personalist, or someone who's like, who may be chanting Krishna's names, but actually they're against Krishna, or they're Buddhist or something like that, or using Krishna's names for their own ulterior purposes. Caitanya, that means the blissful kata, or amrita, nectar of Krishna's names. Shravanam naiva, one should not hear kartavya from such a person. Sarpochistam, that means sarpochistam yata, means like a sarpo. That means serpent. Similar word in English. Sharpo, serpent. Paya, it is like The serpent who has put some poison in paya milk. So one has to be very careful who they hear from. And if you hear from a pure devotee, then it will be medicinal. But if you hear from someone who is not pure, ooh, it will cover your consciousness. That's why when devotees chant, they should have pure devotees chanting. Even if someone is not an expert chanter as far as musical abilities are concerned, that person who is pure should be chanting. Tabe Mahaprabhu Dunhe. Actually, Srila Bhakti, when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur sometimes would have the worst chanter, that means the worst musical chanter, chant for kirtan, so the people wouldn't get into enjoying some musical sounds. Like sometimes, like in Indian music, you hear all these musical sounds, like that. I can't do it. And so the people would just get into hearing the holy names rather than some fancy musical sounds. Fancy musical sounds sometimes draw the mind away from Krishna. Tabe Mahaprabhu Dunhe Karyalingana Majana Karite Samudre Karila Gamana. Thus Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Haridasa Rupa Goswami and left for the seaside to perform his noontime duties. Aradina Mahaprabhu Degi Jagannatha Sarvabhauma Ramananda Surupari Sata Sabe Mili Chalayaila Shirupe Milite Pate Tanra Guna Savara Lagila Kahite. On the next day, after visiting the temple of Jagannatha as usual, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy, and Sarup Damodar. They all went together to Srila Rupa Goswami, and on the way the Lord greatly praised his qualities. Dvi shloka kahi prabhura haila mahasukha nija bhaktera gunakahi hana panchamukha. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited the two important verses, he felt great pleasure. Thus, as if he had 5 mouths, he began to praise his devotee. So see what an affection, several things we can learn from this. One is how much affection Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had for his devotee. Now, Lord Chaitanya is God. He understands all these things, and all knowledge comes from him. So he could just say, whoa, the knowledge that Rupa Goswami has, or the expertise that Rupa Goswami has, is just coming from me. Yeah, I'm God, I get the credit. No, he could have said that. But why was he praising Rupa Goswami? Because Rupa Goswami was able to receive that knowledge because of his devotion. Rupa Goswami's exquisite ability, manifestation of this poetic understanding of the Supreme Personality of God and his energies was due to his bhakti, not due to some material expertise. Material expertise also comes from Krishna, that's true. But bhakti expertise comes from Krishna. But Krishna's internal energy, material expertise comes from Krishna's external energy. Like Ravan, he was very expert in chanting. He was poetic too. Actually, one time he made a poem up and used his intestines as a, how would you say, a stringed instrument. I'll tell you that story. What happens that one time Ravan wanted to prove that he was more powerful than Lord Shiva, so he went to Mount Kailash, put his arms or hands under Mount Kailash, lifted Mount Kailash. Durga got very upset, and Lord Shiva, to pacify Durga, put his toe down and basically crushed Ravana's arms. Not so that they were broken, but so that Ravana couldn't move them. And so Ravana, I guess he had a spare arm or something like that, because you get 10 heads, you get 20 arms. Pretty good. So Ravana was able to pull out his intestines and chant a song to Lord Shiva. Anyway, don't try that at home. Sarvabhauma Ramanande Pariksha Karite Shirupera guna dunhare lagila kahite. Just to examine Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy, the Lord began to praise the transcendental qualities of Srila Rupa Goswami before them. So sometimes examine, what are you talking about examining here? Sometimes we will praise another devotee in front of other devotees, a devotee in front of another devotee, and just see what is their response. I'll say, what a great devotee. Oh, that devotee is just so great. In the meantime, the first devotee who is listening to my praise and the second devotee is turning green, like the color of the screen behind me. I'm going, ooh, guess they failed the test. So, Ishvara Swabhava Bhaktera Nalaya Aparada, but Ramananda Roy and Caritamrta Goswami had no envy. Aparada. That's a test of a devotee. Alpa Seva Bahumane Atma Paryanta Prasada. Characteristically, the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not take seriously an offense committed by a pure devotee. The Lord accepts whatever small service a devotee renders as being such a great service that he is prepared to give even himself, what to speak of other benedictions. Pratyasya Pashyati Gurunapi Naparadan Sevamanagapi Kritam Bahudav Yupaiti Avishkaroti Pishuneshvape Navyasuyam Shilena Nirmalamati Purushottamoyam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Purushottama, that means the best person, the greatest of all persons, see, same thing I said, has a pure mind. He is so gentle that even if his servant is implicated in a great offense, he does not take it very seriously. Indeed, if his servant renders some small service, the Lord accepts it as being very great. Even if an envious person blasphemes the Lord never manifests anger against him. Such are his great qualities. This verse is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.1.138 by Srila Rupa Goswami. Bhakti Sangi Prabhu Oila Deki Dvijana Dandavat Kana Kaila Charana Vandana. When Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami saw that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu had come with his intimate devotees, they both immediately fell down like logs and offered prayers to their lotus feet. Bhakta Sange Kaila Prabhu Dunhare Milana Vindateva Sila Prabhu Lana Bhakta Gana. Thus Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal devotees met Srila Rupa Goswami and Haridas Thakur. The Lord then sat down in an elevated place with his devotees. Rupa Haridasa Dunhe Vasila Pinda Tele Sabagrahena Vutila Pindara Upare. Rupa Goswami and Haridas Thakur sat at the foot of the elevated place where Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was sitting. Although everyone asked them to sit on the same level as the Lord and his associates, they did not do so. Purva Shloka Pada Rupa Prabhu Gyan Kaila Lojate Napade Rupa Mona Darhila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Rupa Goswami to read the verse they had previously heard, Rupa Goswami, because of great shyness, did not read it, but instead remained silent. Sarupa Goswami Tabe Se Shloka Padila Shuni Sabakara Chitte Chamatkara Haila. Then Swarup Damodar Goswami recited the verse, and when all the devotees heard it, their minds were struck with wonder. Ooh. Wow. Priya Soyam Krishna Sahakarchari Kurukshetra Militas Tataham Sarada Tad Idam Uvayo Sangamau Sukham Tatapi Anta Kelan Madhura Murali Panchama Jushe Manome Kalindi Pulina Vipinaya Spriyayati. My dear friend, now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna on this field of Kurukshetra. I'm the same Radharani, and now we are meeting together. It is very pleasant, but I would still like to go to the bank of the Yamuna, beneath the trees of the forest there. I wish to hear the vibration of his sweet flute playing the fifth note within that forest of Vrindavana. So, of course, This is a paraphrase of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's verse that he recited before Lord Jagannath, and during Rath Yatra, and very few devotees, particularly before this, only Srila Rupa Goswami and perhaps Ramananda Roy, because Ramananda Roy would, because he's Vishaka, and Swarup Damodar Goswami is Lalita. They understood, but practically no one else. And Rupa Goswami showed by his paraphrasing the particular verse that Lord Chaitanya recited in front of Lord Jagannath, that he understood the mind of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Raya Bhattacharya Pale Tumara Pasada Bine Tumara Daya He Janila Kemane. After hearing this verse, Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Without your special mercy, how could this Rupa Goswami have understood your mind?" Amate sanchare purve kahila siranta ye sabha sirante brahma nahi paya anta. Srila Ramananda Roy said, "Previously you empowered my heart so that I could express elevated and conclusive statements to which even Lord Brahma had no access. Tata jani purve tumara panache prasada tahavina nahi tumara hridayanu vada." Had you not previously bestowed your mercy on Rupa Goswami, Ramananda Roy continued, it would not have been possible for him to express your internal feelings. So devotees acknowledge Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's special mercy upon Srila Rupa Goswami in the following words. There's a verse that we often quote, Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadaji Swapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami, who was established within this material world, a mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? The special function of Srila Rupa Goswami is to establish the feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These feelings are his desires that his special mercy be spread throughout the world in this Kali Yuga. Another famous verse, Pratividya Chiyata Nagaradi Grama Sarvatra Pachara Hive Moranama. That's from the Chaitanya Bhagavad, Anshakanda 4, 126. The desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is basically a paraphrase of the verse, is that all over the world, everyone in every village and every town know of him and his Sankirtan movement. These are the inner feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Rupa Goswami committed to writing all these feelings of the Lord. Now again, by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the same feelings are being spread all over the world by the servants of the Goswamis and the devotees who are pure and simple, who appreciate this attempt. As concluded by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, however, those who are on the level of hogs and dogs will never appreciate such a great attempt. Yet this does not matter to the preachers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult, for all over the world they will continue to perform this responsible work even though persons who are like cats and dogs do not appreciate them. In other words, this is causeless devotional service. We are not looking for appreciation. Prabhu kahi kaha rupa natakera shloka ye shloka shani le lokera yaya dukkha shukha. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear Rupa, please recite that verse from your drama, which upon being heard makes all people's unhappiness and lamentation go away. Bara Prabhu Yadi Tadayagna Dila Tabe Se Shloka Rupa Goshani Kahila." When the Lord persisted in asking this again and again, Rupa Goswami recited that verse as follows. Tunde tada vinavatim vitanute tundavali labdaye karna kroda kadambini katagyate karnabu devya spriham chetap prangana sangani vijayate sarvendriyanam kritim no jani janita kiad bir amritai krishneti varna dvaihi. This is the verse we also heard before. I do not know how much nectar the two syllables Krishna produced. When the holy name of Krishna is chanted, it appears to dance within the mouth. We then desire many, many mouths. When that name enters the holes of the ears, we desire many millions of years. And when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind, and therefore all the senses become inert. Yatabhata Vrindahara Ramananda Raya Shloka Shuni Sabara Lila Ananda Vismaya. When all the devotees of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, especially Sri Ramananda Roy, heard this verse, they were all filled with transcendental bliss and were struck with wonder. Sabe Vale Nama Mahima Shuniachi Apara Emana Madhurya Keha Nahi Varne Ara. Everyone admitted that although they had heard many statements glorifying the holy name of the Lord, they had never heard such sweet descriptions as those of Rupa Goswami. Rayakahe Kongramta Karahena Jani Yahara Bitare Sirantera Kane. Ramananda Roy inquired, "What kind of drama are you writing?" We can understand that it is a mine of conclusive statements. Surupakahe Krishna Leelara Nataka Karite Raja Lila Pura Lila Ekatarvanete. Swarup Damodar replied for Srila Rupa Goswami he wanted to compose a drama about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. He planned to describe in one book both the pastimes of Vrindavan and those of Dwarka and Mathura. And of course he was instructed not to after that. Arambhiya chila heve prabhutna panda dvinataka karite che vibhaga kariya. He began in that way, but now, following the order of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he's divided it into two. Into two. And is writing two plays, one concerning the pastimes of Mathura and Dwarka, and the other concerning the pastimes of Vrindavana. Vidagna Madhava Hara Lalita Madhava Dvinatake Prema Rasa Adabhuta Sabha. The two plays are called Vidagna Madhava and Lalita Madhava. Both of them wonderfully describe the ecstatic emotional love of God. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur informs us in this connection that Srila Rupa Goswami finished the drama known as Vidagna Madhava in the year Shakabda 1454, that's 1532 of our years, and the Lalita Madhava in Shakabda 1459, that's AD 1537. The discussion between Ramananda Roy and Srila Rupa Goswami at Jagannath Puri took place in Shakabda 1437, that is AD 1515. So in other words, he completed these books much later, actually in Vrindavan. Yeah, much later in Vrindavan, like more than 15 years later. So it was his life's work, basically, if you can imagine that. So, Rayakahi Nandi Shloka Paradeki Shuni Shri Rupa Shloka Pade Prabhupada Madhi. Ramananda Roy said, "Please recite the introductory verse of the Vidagna Madhava so that I can hear and examine it." Thus, Srila Rupa Goswami, being ordered by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, recited the verse 1:1, first chapter, first verse. It's a beautiful verse. Sudanam Chandranam Api Madhurim Madhurim Om Madhadam Madhe Ladana Radhadi Pranayagana Sharai Surabitam Samantat Santapodgama Vishama Sansara Sarani Pranitam Te Trishnam Haratu Harilila Shikarane. May the pastimes of Sri Krishna reduce the miseries existing in the material world and nullify all unwanted desires. The pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are like shikarini, a blend of yogurt and sugar candy. They overpower the pride of even the nectar produced on the moon, for they distribute the sweet fragrance of the concentrated loving affairs of Srimati Radharani and the gopis. Raya kahi kaishta devera varnana prabhura shankochi rupana kare patana. Ramananda Roy said, "Now please recite the description of the glories of your worshipable deity." Rupa Goswami, however, hesitated due to embarrassment because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was present. And now Lord Chaitanya says something. Prabhu kahe kaha kene karas sankocha la jay grantera pala shunaiva Vaishnava samaje. The Lord, however, encouraged Rupa Goswami, saying, "Why are you embarrassed? You should recite it so the devotees can hear the good fruit of your writing." Tabi Rupa Goswami yadi shloka padila shuni prabhu kahi e ati stuti hoila. When Rupa Goswami thus recited his verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disapproved of it because it described his personal glories. He expressed the opinion that it was an exaggerated explanation. This is a beautiful, beautiful verse. Anarpita chiram chirat kodunaya vatirnaha kalo samarpayatum unnato shvalarasam swabhakti shriyam hari purata sundaradyutti kadamba sandevata siddharya kandare spuratuva shachinandanaha. Wow. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost core of your heart, resplendent with the radiance of molten gold. He has descended in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. Wow. What a verse. This verse is from the Vidagdha Madhava 1.2, also appears in the Adi Lila 1.4 and 3.4. In his commentary on the Vidagdha Madhava, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks, Mahaprabho Spurtim Bina Hari Lila Rasashva Dannanupapateriti Bhavaha. Without the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one cannot describe the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami said, Vo yushmakam hridya rupa guhayam sachinandano hari pakshe singha spuratu. May Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is exactly like a lion that kills all the elephants of desire, be awakened within everyone's heart, for by his merciful blessings one can understand the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. So it's amazing the nectar that's there in this chapter. Whew. I feel guilty even having to read this nectar. Sabha Bhakta Gana Kahe Shloka Shunya Kritarta Kadila Sabaya Shloka Shunhana. All the devotees present so greatly appreciated this verse that they expressed their gratitude to Srila Rupa Goswami for his transcendental recitation. Raya Kahe Konamukhe Patrasani Dana Rupakahi Kala Samye Pravartaka Nama. Ramananda Roy inquired, how will you introduce the assembly of the players? Rupa Goswami replied, the players assemble at a suitable time under the heading of Pravartaka. This is the dramatic arrangements that was present at that particular time. In a drama, all the actors are called Patra, or players. This is stated by Vishwanath Kaviraj in the Sahitya Darpana, 6-83. Divyamarche Satadhuvo Mishram Anyatarastayo Suchiyad Hostu Vijam Kvamukam Patram Atapiva. The meaning of Amukha is stated by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Nataka Chandrika. Sutradaro Nati Brute Swakaryam Pratikuyuktitaha Prastutakshepi Chitroja Yataramukam Yiritam. When Ramananda Roy inquired about the arrangement for introducing the assembly of players in the drama, Rupa Goswami replied that when the players first enter the stage in response to the time, the introduction is technically called Pravartika. For an example, see verse 136 below. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the introduction, which is technically called Amuka may be of 5 different kinds according to the Sahitya Darpana 6,288. This is very technical, so you don't have to remember all this stuff. Urgatyaka katolgata prayogati shayastata pravartaka valagite pancha prastavana middaha. The introductions may be classified as follows: 1. Udgat yatka, 2. Katolgata, 3. Prayogatishya, 4. Pravartika, and 5. Avalagita. These 5 kinds of introduction are called Amuka. Thus, Srila Ramananda Roy asked which of the 5 introductions had been employed, and Srila Rupa Goswami replied that he'd used the introduction called the Pravartika. Very, very technical. Anyway, phew, these were geniuses, these particular individuals. Akshipta kala samyena pravesha shat pravartaka. When the entrance of the actors is set in motion by the arrival of a suitable time, the entrance is called pravartika. This verse is from the Nataka Chandrika 12 by Srila Rupa Goswami. So yam vasanta samaya samayaya vidyasmin purnam tamishvaram uboda navanuragam guragraha ruchiraya saharadaya so Rangaya Sangamayata Nishipurnamasi. Well, this is ecstatic. Springtime had arrived, and the full moon of that season inspired the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was complete in everything, with new attraction to meet the beautiful Srimati Radharani at night, to increase the beauty of their pastimes. Phew. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur interprets this verse, Vidagna Madhava 110 in 2 ways, for Lord Krishna and for Srimati Radharani. When interpreted for Krishna, the night is understood to have been a dark moon night, and when interpreted for Srimati Radharani, it is considered to be a full moon night. Raya kahe prarochanadi dakahadeki shune rupa kahe mahaprabhura shravane cha jani. Ramananda Roy said, please recite the Prarochana portion so they may hear and examine it. Shri Rupa replied, I think that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire to hear is Prarochana. Wow. The method of inducing the audience to become more and more eager to hear by praising the time and place, the hero and the audience, is called Prarochana. This is a statement regarding Prarochana in the Nataka Chandrika by Rupa Goswami. Deshakalagata Sajadinam Rishamsya Shotranam Unmukhi Kara Yathiteyam Parochana. Similarly, in the Sahitya Darpana 628, it is mentioned, or it says, Tasha Parochana Viti Tata Prahasana Mukhe Anganyatron Mukhi Kara Vasham Shata Prarochana. Any literature presented in Sanskrit must follow the rules and regulations mentioned in the authoritative reference books. The technical inquiries by Srila Ramananda Roy and the replies of Srila Rupa Goswami indicate that both of them were expert and fully conversant with the techniques of writing drama. Wow. Bhaktanam Udagad Anagaladiyam Vargo Nisargo Julaha Shirai Palavita Sabhalava Badu Bandoho Prabando Pyaso Lebe Chatvaratam Chatandavavider Vrindata Vigarbhavur Manye Madvidda Punyamandala Paripakoyam Munmilati. The devotees now present are constantly thinking of the Supreme Lord and therefore highly advanced. This work, named Vidagna Madhava, depicts the characteristic pastimes of Lord Krishna with decorations or poetic ornaments, and the inner grounds of the forest of Vrindavan provide a suitable platform for the dancing of Krishna with the gopis. Therefore, I think that pious activities of persons like us who have tried to advance in devotional service have now attained maturity. This is verse 8 of the first act of the Vidagdamadava. And I think we are going to end here. Just let me write down so I know where we went. We went from 93 to text 138 today of Antya 1. Now, if you're interested in hearing the Vidagdamadava, just go to iskondesiretree.com and go to my name. And if you don't know what my name is, I don't know how you're going to figure that one out. bkgoswami under the audio section, and go to the audio books, and you'll hear the narration with nice music of the whole Vidagdamadava. And if you want to hear the Litamadava, you'll also find it there, along with other literatures by Rupa Goswami and other Kavi Karnavas, Ananda Vrindavan Jampu, and part of Jiva Goswami's Gopal Jampu and other literatures. Okay, so now we're going to allow you all to ask questions if you're bold enough to question about this esoteric or these esoteric subject matters. So who has a question? You could raise your hand, you could type in the text window, or you can be so bold as to unmute yourself. So, yes. Yes, Mr. Gopal. So what's up?
The verse where the devotees were hearing from Rupa Goswami, and they were so astonished. They said they were struck with wonder to hear such wonderful descriptions in Sanskrit. But for them to be struck with wonder meant that they would have had to understand, at least to a certain degree, how wonderful it was. So those devotees who heard it and understood it must have also been very special, just like
Yes.
Srila Rupa Goswami who wrote it, because otherwise, how could they understand it? Is that correct?
Yeah, of course, they're all special devotees. They wouldn't have been able to understand it had they not had the adhikar to understand it. So it's not that they were not qualified, but they were overwhelmed just to see how someone had received Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Just like a devotee appreciates it. It's actually a devotee becoming overwhelmed at appreciating another devotee. Like sometimes, once in a while, when I'm not envious, I'll appreciate another devotee for their service, and I'll glorify another devotee. I'm just overwhelmed. I mean, like one of my godbrothers, Vaisheshika, is able to distribute so many books, and actually there was one devotee, what was his name, Mahat something, who distributed like 11 or 1200 big books in one day. So you become overwhelmed when you hear about that. So it's just the overwhelming is the appreciation of a devotee's bhakti. And that's when you see in the beginning of this whole discussion, when Lord Chaitanya was bringing Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Roy, he was like testing to see if they would be envious. Of course, he knew they wouldn't be envious, but there's this test to actually show their exalted quality. When a devotee glorifies another devotee happily, not only in words but in tone of voice and bodily motions, then it's understood that is a high-class devotee. Because generally, we get upset if someone else is glorified. We think, what about me? I remember one time I was sitting with Prabhupada, and I mentioned to Srila Prabhupada about one of the devotees who worked under me and who distributed many books. I said, this devotee distributed 10,000 of your Bhagavad Gitas in 1 month. And Prabhupada's eyes opened wide. And Prabhupada said, he has the mercy of Krishna. And me, little old me, sitting there, I was thinking, he has the mercy of Krishna. Come on, I was the temple president. I was in charge. I organized everything. What's going on here? Doesn't Prabhupada understand? So I was turning a little bit like the color you see behind me. And then Prabhupada saw the color radiating from my skull. And he saw the color, and he said, You all have the mercy of Krishna. That's funny. He said, you all have the mercy of Krishna. And I said, phew, well, at least a little bit of recognition of my exalted position. A little bit, not much, but a little bit. And then he said, but then he just slammed me again. He said, but it's just like the gopis, they're considered higher. So, sometimes we can see this when we glorify or pay attention to another devotee. One devotee turns it. But Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar Goswami, they actually increase the appreciation rather than turning green. Envy is one of the anarthas that we all have in this world, like lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, fear, like that. And so we can test the devotee to see if they're envious. Sometimes,
Is it
sometimes I do
possible?
that. What's
Is it
that?
possible to feel, is it possible to feel both appreciation and envy at the same time?
Yes, it is. It is. Sometimes I'll test someone by deliberately like pushing their buttons
You never.
and looking at them and just saying never. Or sometimes I'll praise someone, like Lord Chaitanya did, in a sarcastic way, just to chastise them. It's like Lord Chaitanya when there was the cleansing of the Gundicha temple. There was one devotee who wasn't doing too much. Wasn't living up to his potential. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started to praise him. He said, "You are doing so nice." So Lord Chaitanya has a sense of humor. He has a sense of psychology. He's very intelligent. I mean, most intelligent. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, anybody else have any questions? It's time for one more question. Raise your hand. If not, then we can end about 1 minute or. Oh, Pran Govinda.
Hare Krishna
Soon to be
Maharaj.
Pran Govinda. Soon to be Pran Govinda Maharaj Goswami Maharaj.
Servant of His Holiness Bir Krishna Goswami. His Excellency Followed Soldiers to Prabhupada. Maharaj,
Yes, your divine grace.
just a curious. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rupa Goswami Pad not to take Krishna out of Vrindavan because he never put one steps out of Vrindavan.
That's right.
But in his books, especially two books, Uddhava Sandesh is about Krishna who is from outside sending message to Brajadham. It sounds like a
Yes.
contradictory. Another book also, Hamsa Dutta, that the message that Lalita Sakhi, they are sending it for Krishna who lives outside Vrindavan. So how do
Yes.
we understand that he did not disobey Mahaprabhu, rather he always obeyed?
Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, but somehow he doesn't leave Vrindavan, but somehow or in his expansion, because he's the same person, he remembers his pastimes in Vrindavan. But you don't find Krishna dancing with the gopis outside of Vrindavan. You don't find Krishna playing his flute outside of Vrindavan. You don't find Krishna having his intimate exchanges like he does in Vrindavan outside of Vrindavan. So you'll find that Krishna remembers. I mean, in the what was that book again? Anyway, anyway, I forget right now the name of the book. But there's sometimes that Krishna's encounters a Vrindavan devotee outside of Vrindavan, and he actually starts to remember his pastimes of Vrindavan. And so this is like a remembrance, but the pastimes do not actually take place. Krishna's pastimes do not actually take place outside of Vrindavan. Uh, I mean, just like you have in Kurukshetra, Krishna meets the gopis. I'm surprised you didn't bring up that example, where Radharani says, "You were the same Krishna," And I'm the same Radharani, but I want to enjoy you by the banks of the Vitasi, about the banks of the Yamuna on the Vitasi. So, but the exchange doesn't actually happen. There's not actually the pastime happening. Krishna doesn't manifest that intimacy outside, although he may talk about it, he doesn't manifest it. I hope that answers your question.
It does, but I also wonder, Maharaj, that our highest aspiration is in separation mood. That
Yeah.
Madhavendra Puripad quoted that famous verse, Oye Dina Dayardhanatha. But then
Yeah,
he
when he was
said,
leaving.
yeah, hey Mathura Natha, the Lord of Mathura.
Yes, because Mathura can mean two different things. It can mean Mathura Mandala or the actual district of Mathura, the city of Mathura. It's just like when you see Vrindavan, the word Vrindavan can mean the city of Vrindavan. It can mean all of Braj.
Mhm.
So it depends on the context. So yes, Mathura Mandala includes the circle of Mathura includes Vrindavan, and so that's what Madhavendra Puri was referring to. Not so much Krishna entering the city of Mathura. Do you understand?
Interesting the way you look at it. It's very nice, very attractive. I didn't even think. I never heard it, but it's interesting,
Yeah,
Maharaj.
I mean,
Thank you.
because Mathura Mandala includes Vrindavan, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. But we didn't
But
look
when you
at that way.
yeah, but when you say Mathura, the city of Mathura, that's not Vrindavan. There's different pastimes that take place in the city of Mathura. He kills Kamsa as Vasudeva Krishna.
Hmm.
It's a little esoteric. Kuruday, does that mean that Krishna's uprakata Lila going on? When Uddhava brings the Lila goes into Braj, they can't see Krishna. Uh, Even in Kurukshetra, they want to take him back. Yes, in Vrindavan, the Leela is always going on. Krishna's Leela is going on. It's Prakata. It's unmanifest, but you don't see. I don't see either. But I can experience. All right, I have to end now because it is late. My Leela, my bedtime Leela is coming up.
Thank you. It's wonderful.
I have to enter into the Mahatattva. Krishna goes to Vrindavan, and I enter into the Mahatattva every evening.
You are wonderful, Maharaj.
Nah, I'm just an ordinary conditioned soul with a sense of humor. That's all. I don't know anything. I'm just actually just one announcement. I did a very interesting discussion with Caitanya Charan today about empathic communication, which is going to be posted in the next few days. He has to edit it and down, and if you want to learn about empathic communication, there's certain aspects I explained to him. I also explained how to rectify whatever conflicts are there within ISKCON, especially the Eastern Western managerial conflict.
Hmm.
So you might find that very interesting. Chaitanya Charan, this devotee, he's a wonderful genius. I mean, I love him very, very, very much. It's very close to him. So in the next few days, he's going to post it as one of his podcasts, and we just did it this morning, and you'll see some interesting things. All right, thank you very much. All glorious to His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.